Hello, my friends. This is Heather. This is another celebrity chat day. I'm super excited. And I know I say that all the time, but today I was talking with Michelle Gano, and she is doing some amazing things. And yes, she's targeting kids, but oh my gosh, the whole world needs what she's doing, and we could change the world. So have a listen. If you listen right to the end, you'll get to the Save the World bit. Let me know what you think. I hope you're having an amazing day. Take care. Hi, my friends. Welcome. This is the Back to Me podcast, and this is Heather, and I am super excited that you're here. You are going to hear some tips and some tricks and some ideas to help you live your happiest and healthiest self. I call it Back to Me because when you are taking care of yourself, back to me, then you can take better care of others, and we can all make the world a better place. This is Wellness Your Way, and I am super happy that you're here. There it is. Hello, my friends. How are you doing? This is Heather. This is the Back to Me podcast. This is one of my favorite days of the week because it's Friday, and that means that I'm talking to somebody awesome, one of my celebrities, and you know that's my favorite day of the week. And this week, I have Michelle Gano from Fixer Upper Parenting, right?
Yes,
I got it right. Yeah. And we're going to talk, how to make life awesome is pretty much what it always boils down to in this land. So, Michelle, I know you've had lots. We've talked about so much, but I'll just start with what made you kind of create this program, the Fixer Upper, and where did you come up with the name?
Yeah. Okay. So, oh my goodness, such a loaded question. So first,
Take your time. There's no rush.
We'll just sit here and chat. No. So, the title, first of all, Fixer Upper. My husband and I actually have done 2 Fixer Upper homes ourselves, and so that kind of came in. That inspired me, but also I just believe that as parents and as I was a former teacher and just as people, we're all fixer uppers, right? So we are always trying to grow and make our lives better. And so I just put those together and I was like, hey, this kind of feels like me when I was putting the whole course together. So that's where the name came from.
That's cool.
But really where it stems from is a whole bunch of things. So like I mentioned, my teaching background, I worked with a lot of students who had a lot of emotional needs, and they always kind of put those tough kids with me. But those were the ones that I absolutely loved because I was like, oh yes, I can really give them the love and care that they need in order to not only succeed in school, but just in life in general.
Why do they call them tough kids?
Exactly. That's why I hate that phrase, right? It's like
Right?
they aren't tough. They're just the ones that need the most love, right? Or just be loved differently. And so that is part of my inspiration. And then I used a lot of activities with them that I now use with my own kids. I have 3 kids of my own. And so it was really fun to see the same activities with just younger kids or just a different age group. And it works in the home too. So it's just something that I was like, wow, this really is helpful and would help other families too.
And I feel like it's not just for kids. Like I was looking at your list of things, like some of the things that you were mentioning. And I mean, yes, of course, sometimes we put these categories on things where we're like, oh, this is just for kids. Grown-ups can't do it. I'm like, but what if I want to go in the bouncy castle?
Completely. I'm like a child at heart.
Right? And when I was looking at the things that you had, I'm like, but those work for grown-ups too. Yeah. I mean, everybody needs a little love. And I know it's not all about that, but it's like everybody needs tools to help them, right?
Yeah, because it really is creating a home environment that you and your kids want to be in. And that's something that I feel like so many of us are just trying to get through the day. And it's like, instead of going through the day with that feeling, then you can actually be intentional about, okay, I'm going to make sure I do this today with my kids. And even if you're like, well, I'm so busy, how in the heck would I do that? It could be something as little as 5 minutes setting aside to do one of these little activities, and they're all printables, so that's what makes it easy too.
Right.
So it's things from like helping, just like conversation starters, to other things where it's like behavior management, and like tools that you could actually like have hanging up in your home. So it's just a whole bunch of helpful resources for families.
How old are your kids now?
So mine are 3.5, 1.5, and 2 months old.
Oh my
So very
gosh.
little.
Oh my goodness.
So we
Okay.
have a busy house over
Yeah.
here.
So someone comes running in the middle. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
They won't. They won't. Every door has been locked.
But I was just thinking, like, those would be like, I know little kids, you want to manage their attention and get their, have resources for them. But I'm like, as a teenager, that would have even been helpful.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes. You're
And
very
even with my spouse.
exactly. I love that you're seeing this too, because that is literally it. Like in the course, every lesson I'm teaching something, and all of it's geared to the kids. And then I say, and hey, by the way, you can do this too, and your life will be better. So,
Right?
because when we feel better, then we're better. We show up as better parents.
Did everybody
So,
hear that? Back to me. Back to me.
yes, yeah, exactly.
Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
So I guess, what are some examples? Like, I know I saw the list, but let's talk about it.
Yeah, we'll chit chat.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things that really helps, whether you're a parent or not, is a daily check-in. So this was inspired by, I was feeling so burned out as a teacher at one point, and I was just drained because having all of those emotionally draining kids drained me. So I would be going
Right.
home just feeling like at a zero, but showing up and giving them everything, right? So I created this thing. I was like, okay, Michelle, you know this stuff. Like, put something together for yourself. Survival mode here. And
Right.
so I put together this whole little sheet that I filled out every day. And one thing is affirmations. And if that's like a woo-woo word for some people,
I'm pretty woo-woo, so
oh, perfect.
throw it
But
down.
it's really just like being kind to yourself. So in the morning, just being like, okay, looking at yourself in the mirror, saying you're beautiful today. And that's something, even I'm like so post maternity right now. So I tell myself that, and I'm like, even on the days that I don't feel it, I'm like, no, you're freaking beautiful.
Right.
And so, or just like you are able to get through whatever the day brings. So just writing something down to kind of lift your spirits. Another thing is just self-care. So setting aside 10 minutes a day to do something for yourself. So I'm big on like going outside. I love just being outside and enjoying the beautiful
And
weather.
it's so good for you.
Yeah. And so I say, okay, for 10 minutes today, I'm going to what, and you kind of just set that intention. The next thing is goal setting. So just setting yourself up for success for the day, so that you don't go to bed at night feeling like, oh, I didn't do anything that I really needed to do. So what's that one priority? And then two more things, the gratitude piece. So finding 3 good things from that day. And what I did originally as a teacher, I had a Post-it on my desk. And anytime something good happened that day, I would just jot it down, even if it was in the middle of a lesson, because then I was able to bring that Post-it home. And that was our dinner conversation with my husband. It would be like, all right, what happened today? And so even if it was a stressful, crazy day, I was like, well, good things happened today, even if it didn't feel like the most amazing day ever.
Right.
And then the last part is just having fun. So laughing as a teacher, as a parent, as a human being, I just found the importance of laughing every day. So if something made you laugh, just jotting that down, so that on those darker days, you can go back and be like, oh my God, that was really funny.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you ever, I'm thinking of laughter. Have you ever gone to laughter yoga?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Sounds amazing. I'm writing that down.
Oh, it is hilarious, because it's a room full of people who don't really know each other and don't think it's very funny to go to laughter yoga. But if you have good facilitators, by the end of it, you can't help yourself. You're laughing and it's ridiculous and you can't stop laughing. And then your stomach is sore because it's like an ab workout, laughing that much. Oh my gosh. It just reminded me of my first laughter yoga class. So,
that's awesome. Oh my gosh,
yes.
I need to look that up now.
It's a real thing, friends. It's not fake.
That's great. Oh, I like it.
And I like it's like semi-structured. It's like, here's just some things to do. It'll take you no time at all. So sometimes I think people are dismissive. It's like, oh, 10 minutes, that's not enough. But oh
Oh,
my
that can do a
goodness,
world of a difference. Yeah,
it can be
because
huge.
yeah, especially with a lot of little kids in the house and working, and it's crazy. And so I know realistically I can't just leave the house for an hour of the day to do something for myself. So I'm like, okay, well, if I love reading too, like self-help books. So that's another thing that I do a lot where I'll be like, okay, 10 minutes a day, I'm gonna read, even if it's just a few pages, but I'll make progress. And that's just for me. So
And that's a consistency thing, right? That's,
mhm,
it's James Clear, the Atomic Habits guy. It's like, you don't have to be the hare, little spurts. It's like, just be the tortoise.
mhm,
He probably didn't even say that. I'm probably just putting that in his mouth. But consistent progress. And one day you turn around and go, holy moly, look
mhm.
how far I have come. And oh my gosh, so many stories pop into my head. But I was remembering, so your daily affirmation in the mirror. Have you heard about the book, Love Yourself Like Your Life Depended Upon It?
No, actually.
Oh, you
Jot
might want to check
that
it.
down. Yeah.
I can't remember the author right now. I apologize if you wrote the book. I don't know that you'll actually find this podcast, but it is that, like, it was a gentleman who wrote it, and he found himself like at the bottom, and he just had to, he used these affirmations,
Mhm,
and he didn't know what he was doing at the time. He didn't know what it was going to happen, but slowly, 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 back out he came from his little dark place. Because it's true, you have to, sometimes you have to tell yourself something you don't believe until you believe it, right?
I think so too. 'Cause
And
you're right.
what's funny is other people believe it
Mhm.
about you way before you will.
Oh, absolutely. And that's such a cool thing too. Like if you're ever in a dark place, like asking someone you love, like, what do you see when you look at me? And just see what they say, because a lot of times it's like what you wish you felt like, but maybe you don't
Right?
feel it, but they see it. So that's a cool thing to do.
Yeah, I did that exercise once, and I can't remember what it was for or where it came from, some course I was in, and it said, just go to your social media and just ask people to send you 3 words that describes you. And I thought, oh, nobody's going to answer. Nobody will answer me. And all these things came in, and I thought, oh my God, it was a bit overwhelming. Really, it's like what you don't realize. I had an episode one day called, I can't remember what I called it, but it was basically about people have a different interpretation of you than you do, and all of them are individual in what they see. But I'm
Yeah,
like, wow, yeah. And let people be generous and give you that information and accept it gracefully, right? And then
absolutely.
tuck it away and
Yeah.
your, affirmations, gratitude. So you allow yourself one priority a day, or can you have two?
Oh, definitely, you can have more. Yeah. No, I just don't like to overwhelm people. So if one feels like that's doable, do it. But yeah, trust me, there's usually a lot more on my list that I'm like, okay, if I could get these 2 things or these 3 things done,
Right.
then I'll feel good going to bed. And even if it's baby steps, I always tell people, because another thing that I've done is just with my 3 pregnancies, I've always tackled a big goal of some sort. So, writing and publishing books, creating this online course. So, I've always been a little crazy and said, like, okay, the baby's coming this time. Like, what can I get done in that time? Because afterwards, it's going to be even crazier having an added human in the house. So, so that's been so yeah. So I'm very big on like baby steps. Even if like this week, if I say, okay, what are the 2 things this week that I really have to get done to keep the like ball rolling, then that's also helpful. So it doesn't always have to be this big, massive step in order to
Right.
feel productive. It could be small things.
And even backing up further, because I've talked to people who have massive to do lists. And sometimes when you look at the to do list, some of the stuff has become irrelevant or unimportant or not even what they want to do anymore, but they're afraid to take it off the list for some reason. So, knowing, I feel like, do you have a step in there where you have like a bigger kind of goal idea? Like, this is how you want your life. I think I read this in somewhere. This is what you want your life to look at. And then what are the steps to get there? right?
Yeah, so I would say that's not like a daily practice of like revisiting that, which it could be. But I would say one thing that I actually did was monthly. I would kind of revisit that question, and like the first of the month, I'd be like, okay, what do I want this month to look like? What's like the theme that I want to try to create in my house, in my personal being, in whatever like I wanted to focus on. And so then that kind of drives what all of your goals are for
Right.
right?
Yeah. Because it is kind of like you could end up with the wrong priorities, like
Oh,
you're
absolutely.
in place where you keep doing this thing, but it's driving you further away from what you want over there.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it's less with kids that you would have to have that kind of overarching. I could never do the 5-year goals when I was in corporate office. I just couldn't wrap my head around 5-year goals.
Mm-hmm.
But I could think of like an image of what I wanted my life to look at, and then
Backtrack from
backing.
there.
Yeah, it's like, what's the first thing to do?
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing to do, or the first priority to do
Yeah.
to move that way? And then it takes time, takes multiple steps. It takes consistency
It does, you're right.
and kindness,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, I know that I would forget every now and then to do things, right? So then you don't beat yourself up, right?
Right.
What do you do with kids who are like, I forgot to do it. Oh my God, I failed.
Mm-hmm.
How do you like you have now you have a full house of bodies. So with your kids or with your husband, how do you manage the if you fall off the rails a little bit? How
Oh,
do you
we
get
absolutely do. You're talking to us in the midst of like, okay, our daughter's only 2 months old, right? So the past 2 months have not looked like the way life usually looks, right?
like
So,
magic?
yeah, so this is literally like our conversation every morning. My husband and I are like, all right, what is like the top things that have to get done today? And because we're both home, I work from home, so that's really nice, and we're grateful for that. But yeah, it takes a lot of balancing and being like, okay, like, are you the priority today? Meaning like, do you really need this done? Yes. Okay, perfect. So then we'll back up and I'll help with the kids, or we'll switch. Like right now I'm doing this interview. So he's got all the kids upstairs, right? So we have our little like juggling act, which is really helpful. Because yeah, at the end of the day, we're like, okay, I didn't get to this, but how can we then incorporate it into the rest of the week? And then we just pull out our calendars and figure it out. And it definitely is a little bit of a team effort. So for right now, at least, and then once life settles in a little bit, once the baby's a little older,
In
it gets
20
a little
years. In
smoother.
20 years.
I can dream. Come on.
Right? All the moms I talk to, including my own, are, they're always a mom, no matter
Oh,
what.
absolutely. Yeah.
Maybe a little less hands-on later on, but I get the, I'm worried. What are you doing? Look, Mom, if anything goes wrong, I'll let you know.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, Mom.
I'm in
Sorry,
the
Mom.
diaper
Sorry, Mom.
phase.
Right. And yeah, it's true. I find, and I mean, people will really give themselves a hard time if something they don't do that thing, whatever that thing is, and then they'll fall into like that pattern of, well, I didn't do it, so I'm a failure, or I didn't do it, so why bother doing it today? And you just keep getting further and further away from it. But if you could just, and this is a tactic I use in meditation. If you find yourself, because I'm a meditation teacher as well, of course, if you find you're distracted, don't give yourself a hard time. If you forgot to do something, don't give yourself a hard time. Just say, that's okay. Come on back. Come on back in. Let's start again and do it. Just keep doing it, right?
Yeah, that's all you can do, because it's never going to be perfect. So.
No. And thank goodness.
I know.
Thank goodness. Because if it was perfect, like, there's nothing after that. Right? Everybody on the podcast, if they've listened for any length of time, they know my story about perfection. But I will tell you. So I went to a therapist and we're discussing perfection. And he said, imagine a rose. And it's perfect. It's at its perfect state of like beautiful and bloomed and smells perfect. When it hits that perfect moment, it starts to die. It's like, oh my God.
hit hard.
It's like he was trying to make a point. He's like, okay, fine. I don't want to be perfect. Thank God I'll never reach it. Right? Oh my goodness. Yeah, it was a little tough love. Okay, it was a little tough love.
That's okay. It's needed every once in a while.
What kind of, so I'm interested in what kind of stuff you use for the how to, like how I love myself. Like how do kids translate that, or even grown-ups?
Yeah, so I love these two activities that, again, are in the course, but I used in my classrooms every year, and that's really where they stemmed from. And also, another thing that I didn't add in the beginning was my own childhood played a lot into creating this too. So in the beginning, I had this beautiful childhood that was just like that ideal, like super fun filled, and then actually 9/11. So we're just past it, but 9/11 really changed my childhood a lot because my dad was in the Twin Towers that day.
Oh my
He
gosh.
made it home. He made it home safely, but he came home a very different person, and it just created the most tense environment. And so our life
It's a really
definitely,
awful experience, right?
yeah, yeah, I can't even imagine what he saw that day, and he did the best he could, but it was definitely not the childhood that we were used to. So a lot of the activities were actually from my own pain as a child, and seeing my students experiencing similar pain at home. I was almost healing my own inner child while I was helping them, which
That's
was
cool.
like the most beautiful thing in the world, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
So yeah, so the two activities that I created then and use now still with my son, especially the oldest one, is how I feel loved activities. So that is finding out how your kids and the people in your life feel loved. So asking that simple question, like, how can I make you feel loved today? Or saying, so like for a kid, you could say like, what do I do that makes you feel so super loved? Right. And then they can share what I do that makes them feel loved. So some kids, it's the whole conversation of the 5 love languages, right?
Right.
So Gary Chapman's book, if you haven't read that, it's a great one. But it's like, I'm so snuggly, and I love when someone just holds me when I'm feeling a little bit down. But meanwhile, my son is like so not that. He's like, no, I want to go play with you, mom, like some quality time, right? He's like, let's go do this.
No snuggling.
Yeah, he's like, that's
Such a boy.
I'm like, okay, fine. So yeah, exactly. So it's just asking them, because that really came from in the classroom. You have 20 plus kids in front of you.
How old are they?
They were, I did kindergarten and 3rd grade for most
Okay.
of my career. But I've taught a bunch of other grades.
Yeah.
And so, but with the 3rd graders specifically, I was like, okay, how can I meet all of their needs and know what would make them feel loved? So I had them write that down. Like, my name was different back then, but like, Mrs. Gano makes me feel loved when she what, And so then I could easily bring that paper out and be like, okay, Joey needs help today. What did he say would be helpful for him? And I would be able to then do that for him. And so it was a great way of just connecting on a much deeper level with not just the kids in your life, but just people in your life too.
And it's funny that we often don't ask that. I mean, I know Love Languages, the book was popular a while ago. I can't remember when it first came out, but it's like we don't ask people.
Yeah, it's such a simple thing though, right?
We just assume, oh, if I like this, they must like it.
Yes, exactly.
This must be what they want. But someone I was talking to recently, I can't remember who it was. I wouldn't mention their name anyway, but because we were having that conversation about their partner, and said, well, they needed different things. I said, did you ask them what they need? Nope. Why not? Like, how are you supposed to know if you don't ask them?
Yeah, because that can avoid so much misunderstanding and arguments, right? Like, oh my gosh, my husband and I always talk about that. Like, okay, I'm clearly not feeling like supported or loved. I need this, right? And if I didn't say that, or if he didn't say that to me, then we wouldn't know. And
it's not a judgment, and it's not, it's not saying you're a bad person. It's just like, listen, this would make me feel good today. So
absolutely.
we're in a relationship. I mean, that goes to the relationship part of your wellness, right? Mm-hmm. Communication is so important.
Oh yeah.
Little kids, big kids, small kids, mm-hmm. all kids. I mean, my husband is still a kid, and he just turned 64. So he's not here. I can say that. Right. But yeah, it's, everybody's got something. And oh my gosh, communication. I love that you are letting those kids see that early in life. Like it's almost like you're setting them up for a fabulous teenage years. Hopefully, they won't be too
Was a really
traumatic.
good point. Yeah. And another thing that reminds me of is like something else that I didn't share with you prior, but a lot of like the behavior management tools that I use, it gears exactly towards that. I'm like, okay, in life, like what are they going to need to know how to do? And a big thing is like coping skills, right?
Right.
So even when, like, because I always joke, I'm like, I have mommy meltdowns just like they have meltdowns, right? Like I freak out, I have my moments, right? And everybody
I
does.
freak out, and I'm not even a mom. So
So I always say, I'm like, okay, but it's how you act after that's important for them to see. How do you recover from that? Or how do you make a lesson out of it? So even like my son, I taught him how like to calm his body, right? So I use that language and I'm like, okay, like I see you're feeling upset. Let's take 2 deep breaths to calm your body. And so that's very normal to him now, which sounds odd for a lot of people, but I've just done it with my own students too, that it's so normal for me in my life. And so it's great because when I lose my cool a little bit, he'll be like, mommy, like calm your body. And not in like a fancy way, but like in a way like, hey mom, like it's okay, like you got this. And then I'm like, you know what, you're right, I felt mad and I need to calm my body now. And I do, and I exaggerate it of course in the moment just to make him aware, but it really is teaching like acknowledging emotions, how to cope with them, how to like manage them. And that's a skill that so many people, adults, lack
oh my
today.
gosh,
Like, could you imagine if like the world knew how to cope with manage their emotions?
we would have a whole different planet right now. Like,
Oh yeah.
I hesitate even to read the news right
Oh, I
these
avoid
days.
it at all
Right.
costs.
I don't want to know who got angry and just couldn't manage themselves today, is basically what it is. Who
Yeah.
got angry and couldn't manage their emotions today and was old enough and had resources to do something bad.
Yeah.
Right. Oh my goodness. Imagine. Oh my gosh. Imagine what could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like managing your emotions. And sometimes people think you're not repressing them, right? We're not
Mm-mm.
talking about, because humans are built to be emotional beings, and that's pretty groovy. It's pretty awesome. And I mean, even if something bad happens and you feel that like you're just going to react automatically, it is absolutely the okay, that happened. Before I go do something like karate chop somebody, maybe I can just decide if that's actually a good action, right? So
Exactly. And like talking it out loud too. Like I remember even doing that as a teacher. Like if I would be losing myself, I would be like I need I need a minute to calm down and just like let them see me acknowledging that, because then they do it. And
oh
kids
wow.
repeat what you do. So it's like if they see, oh, she just got really mad, but then got control of it. So
Right.
it's pretty cool to
And
see.
not personalizing it, right? She got mad. She's mad, but it's not like not taking that on as their
Yeah.
personal burden to bear.
Yeah.
Because I
Absolutely.
can remember little kids, they'll try, if parents fighting, they'll take on the it's my fault burden. And parents, if they could take a breath and say, I'm just upset, it's not with you. I'm
Mhm.
just having a moment. Just give me a sec. Right.
Yeah, and explaining it is so like it's so helpful because I feel like we were raised with that whole like suppress mode. And so it was like, okay, we couldn't talk about it. We just saw big explosions, big reactions, right? Instead of just sitting and talking about it. So that's something I'm just really big on making
and
sure it doesn't happen.
and if you reach adulthood and you don't know how to stop the explosions, or you don't know how to regroup from the explosion, so maybe you explode but you don't ever come back to talk about what happened and kind of say, okay, this happened, this is why. I mean, I think that is almost as damaging as uh, like repression is almost more damaging than the explosion sometimes,
Mhm.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's why there's therapy in the world.
Yes.
We got to
Ding,
teach the
ding.
therapists this technique. All of my therapist friends listening,
Yeah, seriously.
go and get these tools. And so is your course like one of those do-it-yourself courses? Is that what
Yep.
you
So
have?
it's self-paced. So there's 10 lessons within, and each lesson has a video and resources that go along with it. And then just like a little like summary sheet just for the people who are busy and crazy and like, okay, I just need like something to just look at afterwards. So I always say it was created by a busy parent for a busy parent.
Right.
I really kept that in mind. I was like, okay, how can I make this as simple to digest as possible? But then people can really just start it right away. So all those printable resources are really helpful because then it's like, okay, I learned this today. I can print it right now and do it with my kids later. So that's helpful.
It's so funny that you say that because I'll get courses where it's all videos and I'm like, where's the
Yeah,
fast
that
forward
doesn't help
button?
me.
I just want to fast forward past this part. Just go to
Yeah,
the good stuff.
exactly. Yeah, so it has it a little bit for everyone, just in case someone prefers one over the other.
And I think I just have an impatience in me that I am always working with. Like I
Yeah.
want to get to the good part at the
Yep.
end. It's
Yeah.
like, enjoy the journey, Heather. Enjoy the journey.
Yeah. But it's also
That's
like getting to the practical things too. It's like, okay, but how can this help me? Like kind of
yes.
cutting out the fluff, which is really good because it even helps with just stuff like I have one lesson that's like, okay, decluttering your mind and decluttering your space. And I walk them through, okay, how can you just declutter your mind? What are some steps you can take and the space? Because I'm very big on like if I have a cluttered house, I can't breathe. And then the kids get crazy with that. And so it touches on so many different topics with kids, just creating like a good home environment in general.
right.
So
It is true. I mean, there's a reason people love the Zen, like look behind me, the Zen uncluttered because it's just even if you don't recognize it, it's visually disturbing to have lots of
yeah,
things. And they say, oh, it's a sign of a creative mind. Okay, seriously. If I can't find my phone on my desk, that's not being creative.
yeah,
And I'm saying that because sometimes I can't find my phone on my desk.
yeah,
I love the idea of Zen. I don't always live it.
yeah,
It's up and down.
mhm.
I do this Tai Chi class. I'm like, we're just gonna go with the flow,
Yeah,
friends. It's like this is my life.
absolutely.
Right. Oh my gosh, right? Oh, yeah, it's true that everybody also absorbs information differently. You know,
Mhm.
you got your visuals, your kinesthetics, your auditories. So
You are
having
speaking my
some of
language here. You are speaking to my teacher self.
right, right, yes. I come from a long line of teachers, and I was probably just born one and didn't recognize it early, which is groovy. I can teach in other ways. I mean,
That's what I say too, because everyone's like, "Well, you're not a teacher anymore." I'm like, and the funniest thing was, as a teacher, I always said, I was bothered with only having 20 kids in my class because I was like, no, I need to be teaching more kids this. Like, I wish I could teach the whole school
right?
because
They
it was stuff
have
like this where I'm like, like I have a different feel in my classroom and I know it because of what I'm doing with them, right? And so that's why I loved creating this course too, because I was like, this is my way of reaching more than 20 kids a year.
imagine if this was a whole school systems could pick this
Oh
up.
my God, that would be amazing.
Okay, world, make it happen.
Yeah, let's go. Any connections I'm in.
Make it happen.
It's
Happy
so true though.
children. Just
Yeah.
imagine in 20 years if we had a whole bunch of kids who
Oh,
could be happy. Whoa.
well, I'll
You
try to
think
make
your
it happen.
classroom looked differently, the planet would look
Yeah,
different, right?
trust me, I have that crazy goal in my heart.
We call them big, hairy, audacious goals, and they're
Yep,
beautiful.
I've heard of those.
Yeah, I know. We've been in the self-help world. We know all the
Yeah,
words.
I know.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
So my sister is grandma, my brother is a grandpa. I'm like, their kids could use this, and their grandkids could use this.
Mhm.
It's like, oh gosh,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
that
had
would be
a grandparent, purchase this too for
really, yeah,
yeah, and it was really cool because then they were like, "Oh, I can teach," like, they were going through it themselves, and then they wanted to
right.
teach their kids, all about it too, which
And
is
it can adjust your relationships that you already have when you start those conversations, right?
absolutely yeah.
They'll feel uncomfortable at first, friends, if you're not used to it. but just stay in the discomfort,
Yeah.
right? Because the after effects are way better.
I agree with you.
Yeah, amazing. So cool. So I'm going to make sure that all of your connections are in the show notes, that everything is everywhere for people to grab this and change the world. This is your chance to change the world. And that makes me super excited because that's been my goal for like the last 30 years to change. 30 years-ish, let's just say. In whatever way I can. So, Michelle, do you have any final words of wisdom to save the world? It doesn't have to save the world, but do you have any final words?
Actually, there is one thing that just popped into my mind. So a lesson I've learned, and I'm sure you've heard this before, but hurt people hurt other people. And so that's like a message that I'd love to share, because with just everything that's in not only the course, but just what I embody and teach people, it's helping yourself heal from whatever has happened in your own life. Because if you're not healed, you're not going to be, like we said, you're not going to be showing up as your best self. So helping other people in your life just not feel that hurt anymore, so that they can go on and live a compassionate life, and not have people going out there causing all the destruction, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is my final thought there.
That's perfect. I'm not even going to say anything else. That's really good. So, my friends, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you. I love chatting with you.
Yeah, me too. And everybody out in podcast land, take good care of yourselves, please. Check all the information in the show notes. Send us some comments, because I'd love to know how you would like us to save the world and how you're going to save the world. Peace, my friends. Take care. See you next time. Hi, my friend. Thanks so much for listening to this entire podcast. If you found it useful and you're like me and you like helping others, please feel free to share this. Just give it a like, give it a comment. If you found something useful in it, there's a chance that someone else will find something useful as well. Also, if you have any questions at all, I can absolutely help, and I would love to help. You can email me at heather@prosperityflowcoaching.com. If you want more of this awesome content, you can follow me on Instagram, Heather Stewart Coaching. You can follow me on Facebook, Prosperity Flow Coaching. And I have a personal request. I want to help as many people as I can with these podcasts. And if you could give me a review, hopefully a good one, if you could share, if you could send this out into the world, I would truly appreciate it. I hope you have an amazing day, and I hope that you find your way to wellness by getting back to me. Take care, my friend.